Hello, baseball fans. You're watching On Deck with Tyler Redmond.
Welcome in On Deck. I'm Tyler Redmond. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. A little bit of pregame information. It's not going to be a very long stream at all. I will do autograph of the day at the end, but this stream will not be very long. However, we have some really big news to talk about today. This came out last night, yesterday afternoon, whatever you want to call it, and it's really big news. Alex Anthopoulos, let's just get to it. Alex Anthopoulos says that Mike Soroka, Travis d'Arnaud, and Huascar Ynoa could all return in August. So this is a really big deal. Those are three really big names. Mike Soroka has been a name that, of course, we haven't had in a very long time. And it'll be interesting to see what his return looks like if it actually does happen in August, especially considering the fact that, we at one point we didn't even expect to have him at any point this year. Before yesterday, we didn't expect to have him at any point this season. We were thinking it was going to be 2022 before that was to happen. Travis d'Arnaud, another one that we weren't sure was going to come back. We were really hoping so. It was looking like it was a good possibility. But this is almost confirmation that I think we get Travis d'Arnaud back by the end of the year. Huascar Ynoa, that's a big deal as well. So this is, that's right on time for the playoff hunt. That's a really good time for the Braves to get hot in August. And you add Mike Soroka to that pitching staff. You've now deepened it. You add Huascar Ynoa to it. Things get interesting. Travis d'Arnaud, obviously a very big bat, more experienced catcher than William Contreras, and, of course, Kevin Smith as well. But you go into the playoffs and you have Travis d'Arnaud and William Contreras as your catchers, as opposed to William Contreras being your number one and Kevin Smith being the backup. I feel very confident in this team at that point. Mike Soroka adding to the pitching staff as well is a very big deal, and I think this could be a very big thing for the Braves. Now, before we get any further, we need to talk about LlerandIGloves.com if we can. Give me just a second, guys. Go follow these guys. LlerandIGloves.com. They have been sponsoring me all year long, and they have been more than a good sponsor. They have been very kind to me, but they're also a really good glove company. So they're the best leather around on the baseball field for the best price. Take my word for it. Their website is right there on the screen, but it's also in the link down below. Go check them out. Tell them I sent you. I promise you won't be discouraged. Father's Day's coming up pretty soon, so go check them out. LlerandIGloves.com. So with that said, what's going to happen? What's going to be the process, right, in bringing these guys back? I don't think they're rushing them at all. I don't think that's the case. I think they've seen I think we got the worst case scenario when we saw Travis d'Arnaud maybe not making it back at the end of the year. I think we got worst case scenario through all of these guys. Every update we've got about Mike Soroka, at one point it flipped. At one point we thought we were going to have him back in May. And then, maybe early June. Well, it's June 15th. We haven't got him. That's because Mike Soroka had to go through exploratory surgery, and it was not looking good. It was looking like, we're not going to see him until next year because they're not going to push it. Things have changed. Basically, after undergoing that surgery, he was shut down 6 weeks, and there's been nothing but he's done nothing but rest in Soroka. So you can only hope that he does return in August. He looks good. He looks healthy, because at the end of the day, whether the Braves make a playoff run in 2021 or not, the Braves are going to make a few playoff runs over the next few years, and you want Mike Soroka to be a part of that. You want Mike Soroka to be healthy for that. So him possibly coming back at the end of this year is exciting. It's a really good thing, and to me, Huascar Ynoa, I don't know what he's going to look like when he returns, but Huascar Ynoa, before he went out, was the Braves' best starting pitcher when he left. He had like a 3.02 ERA, and he looked really good across 8 or 9 starts. So he looked really good before he left, and it was unfortunate when he got hurt and couldn't pitch, because kind of left the Braves in a weird situation where they had to go to alternative arms. They were limited. It actually is the reason the guy who's pitching tonight, Tucker Davidson, it's actually the reason he got called up, if you really want to get down to it. And look, Tucker Davidson's been a really good piece. But if you can get to the playoffs and you add Mike Soroka and Huascar Ynoa back into that conversation, whether Huascar be relief or whatever, whether Tucker moves to relief, you've boosted your pitching staff tremendously. And I think this is going to be a very interesting situation as time goes on. Make sure to get your comments in, guys. We are going to hit you guys up before we leave. The Braves do come on in about 20 minutes, so make sure you tune in to them as well. But I did want to come on here and give you a little bit of pregame conversation because it's an interesting time to be a Braves fan. The Braves have, certainly had their struggles and their difficulties throughout the season. I think now is a very good time to turn it around. If you look at the schedule, they got the Mets, I want to say 7 out of 10 games after the Red Sox series. So it's a really good time for the Braves to make a run. Hopefully that's the case. And, I've heard what you guys have been talking about. I know that you're frustrated, as any of us would be, as the Braves probably are. And I've saw, a conversation about Freddie Freeman. Is Freddie Freeman upset? Is Freddie Freeman, does he not want to be here because of his contract? I don't think that's the case because, you probably already know this stat, but his expected batting average and expected OPS, expected on-base percentage, according to how hard he's hitting the ball, his hit velocity, he should be on base, 350, or 400 rather, and his batting average should be around 300. So I don't know. Do you want him to change his approach? I don't think that's what the Braves need to do. I think if you eliminated the shift right now, Freddie Freeman would be a 350 hitter. I really think that's the case, and it's unfortunate. But teams shift against Freddie. He's one of the best hitters in the league, and it becomes difficult. Now, what that does do is it opens up a chance for another guy to succeed. And I know I've talked a lot about him, but Austin Riley has been absolutely outstanding this season. And I think we have gotten to the point where we expect it, and hopefully, it continues to some degree. I don't know if he's going to, continue this throughout the rest of the season. I'm sure he'll have a slump here and there, but he's been, I think, for my money, the most consistent hitter in the Braves lineup. And, I don't think any of us would have expected that. To be fair, I wouldn't have expected that. I did expect a big year for him, a big year of growth, especially having Chipper Jones, in the dugout before every game. But I would not have expected that he would take up the mantle that he's taken. Even when Acuna's not hitting, Austin Riley's hitting the ball the other way for a single. And he hit a ball the other way right down the right field line for a home run the other night. And, he's just looked really good. And I think it's, I did a video earlier this year, credit where it's due, Austin Riley. And I did that because it wasn't because he was relatively successful at the time. It was more so because he was doing the right things. He was hitting the ball the right way. It was a similar situation what Freddie Freeman's going through. It was just hit right at people. But he was hitting the ball, and I knew at some point he's going to break out. And I still think that's true for Freddie Freeman. I think, Freddie Freeman, a couple of them start landing. Freddie Freeman's batting average is going to look good, and his on-base percentage is going to look good. His homers look just fine. So it's not like he's fallen off. His home run numbers are perfectly fine. It's not the hard hit velocity. It's not making contact. It's not barreling up. It's just a matter of being unlucky sometimes. And I think that will change over time. I think Freddie Freeman is going to break out. And I think a perfect comparison would be Austin Riley at the beginning of the year. With hard hit balls hit right at the first baseman because you're hitting them the other way. So you're doing the right things. It's just a matter of getting those things, to land your way. And a lot of things haven't landed the Braves' way. You look at the standings, the Braves aren't in first, which is, I think that's a bit jarring for a lot of us. I think a lot of us expected the Braves to just outright win this division and, don't even make it a conversation. But, to me, I think you have to consider the fact that the teams around the Braves, specifically the Mets and the Phillies right now, because they're above the Braves in the standings by a couple of games. You look at them, they have built up to the Braves because they realized, that they could not compete. The Phillies, I don't even think the Phillies were worth talking about last year, and neither were the Mets really. I think the Braves had a hand on it and weren't letting it go. And I think now that the Braves have to compete for that, we're a bit frightened, because we're used to the Braves that win 14 straight division titles. That's the history. That's what we want. And that necessarily might not happen, if the Braves can't get it together by the end of the year. But I do think you have to realize they're not wanting to win. That's not the case whatsoever. And I think that the Braves ultimately are going to make a run. Whether they make it to the playoffs, I don't know. But I think they're going to make a run. I think you're going to see some things change. The series with the Phillies, the recent series with the Phillies, was unfortunate because Will Smith comes in and gives a walk off. The next night another walk off fashion, and it was a game that the Braves both games easily could have won and probably should have won. And you have games like that, and it's heart wrenching in a way, and you want things to change immediately. I think things are going to change soon. The trade deadline's coming up. I think you're going to see some people moved. I think you're going to see some people brought in. Maybe bullpen help. Shane Green was already brought in because the Braves realized, hey, we need to pay this man. We need to get him on the field immediately. And I think that's a good thing. I think the Braves need bullpen help, and Shane Green was a perfect fit. I know he struggled in his first appearance, but make no mistake, Shane Green's going to be just fine. He's going to perform, and he's going to aid that bullpen tremendously. What I think we should do with the bullpen is, if we're going to leave Bryce Wilson in the minors or Kyle Muller in the minors, and we have no bullpen help, let's get him some major league experience. Let's make the call. Bryce Wilson right now, I believe, has like a 5 ERA. He's pitching tonight for the Stripers. But with that said, I don't know how different it would be if he was called up to the majors. I'm not saying it should happen, but I would much rather see somebody that competes, and wants that, because he obviously did. He had a job in spring training. We all thought he was going to be a part of the rotation at the beginning of the year, and things change, and it just didn't happen. But you bring him to the majors, you give him a chance to shine, he'll do it. Look at last year versus the Dodgers. I want that guy. I want that guy in my pen. Because if he can do multiple innings when I need him to against the best team in baseball last year, in the postseason, nonetheless, I would like to see him in some capacity on the team. Edgar Santana's a guy that, just has been up and down. Maybe send him down, give another guy a shot. Kyle Muller's the guy that if I was bringing up a starting pitcher right now, I'd probably bring up Kyle Muller. But if I was to bring up a reliever, or someone that could be a reliever, someone that could fill in that gap, it'd probably be Bryce Wilson. Just because, not even because of his stats this year. Look, a 5 ERA in the minors is not standout by any stretch of the imagination. But what he did last year stood out to me. I would pick him over Kyle Wright any day of the month right now. I think Kyle Wright has a bright future, but right now, Bryce Wilson's a guy that when the light shines brightest, I want Bryce Wilson in that spot based on what I've seen out of those 3 guys. But we will see. Time will only tell. I do think some things are going to be moved either before or after the trade deadline, after being minor leaguers, before being a trade. Who do I think will be traded? I don't know. I think the Braves definitely need to go get something. Marcell Ozuna's not looking like he's going to return this year, so you probably need a left-handed power bat, following Freeman. Whether you make Riley that guy or whether you find someone else, as much as I like Albert Almonte, as much as I like Guillermo Heredia, as much as I like Adrianza, I really think that the Braves need to go get someone. It would be a perfect time to have Adam Duvall. And I know a lot of you guys are probably saying that in the chat right now. I would agree with you. I never wanted the Braves to get rid of Adam Duvall. I disagreed with it when it happened. But things happen. And, Adam Duvall's having a pretty decent year. He's not falling off like a lot of people thought he would. Which is a good thing to see. I root for former Braves, and Adam Duvall was a guy that was easy to root for. But it's not necessarily going to be Adam Duvall. It could be Charlie Blackmon. It could be a lot of guys. But I think the Braves definitely need to make a move of some kind for the lineup, and not just pitching. Bullpen, we could definitely use some guys, but I really think the lineup needs some help. I know a lot of you guys are upset that Melanson's doing so well this year. And credit to him, he's doing really well. But I think there are other options that the Braves could go get as well. So we shall see. Time will tell. I think that the Braves still have a very bright future this year. And with that out of the way, we're going to talk about your comments. So let's go ahead and read them. I got a lot of you guys in tonight. Good to see everybody. Brandon Kirkwood, what's going on, Tyler? Tell us something good. I hope I did tell you something good. I hope I told you some good news. And, I think Mike Soroka, Waskari Noah, and the return of Travis d'Arnaud all in one story is a pretty good starting point. Justin Goldberg, you hit the nail on the head. Is this about the Soroka, d'Arnaud update? Indeed it is, sir. Good to hear from you. What's up, Jesus? Sean Sports Cards. Having these players back and healthy would change everything. I agree. And I think it's going to be a very monumental change. This is something that, like, if the Braves were to win the World Series this year, and they did a 30 for 30 on it, this would be a probably in the middle of the episode, and it would be a turning point for the entire season. So I think that's a really good way to put it. Not really worried about Freddie, the Mad Monk. That's a funny name. I like that. The Mad Monk says not really worried about Freddie. I'm not either. I don't want Freddie to go changing his approach. I don't want him. So many guys don't hit like Freddie. And what I mean by that is, in today's game, I was talking about this with someone at work this morning. In today's game, it's either strikeout or home run. That's because ground balls are usually outs. Line drives, a lot of the time, are outs. And that's due to the shift. I think if you eliminated the shift, you wouldn't have that problem. I don't necessarily want to eliminate it, but I would like to limit it for players, not even necessarily like Freddie, but for players like Brian McCann, who hit in the shift every time. And a lot of other guys have fallen to that. And it removes a lot of strategy from it. Well, it adds strategy too, but it takes away from a lot of offense. And I think ultimately Freddie Freeman's going to break out of it. Matter of time. But appreciate the comment there. Let me see. Dang, kind of hard to watch. I'm at the game. I got another friend at the game too there, Atlanta kid. Hopefully it'll be a good one. Tucker Davidson on the mound. Maybe you'll be witness to his first win tonight. We'll see. Tyler, give me one finger for a Braves win tonight. Give me two for a loss. Ronnie, I saw we have money to spend at the trade deadline, but I would like to see AA get active now, not 7 weeks from now. What say you? Yeah, the Braves tend to act early. I believe they acted early on a lot of guys. When they needed bullpen help a couple years ago, and they went and got Shane Green, Chris Martin, Mark Melanson. They did that early. They didn't wait for the trade deadline. When you wait for the trade deadline, it's not so much. A lot of times, teams want too much when it's at the deadline. Go early. Tell them what you're willing to give and see what they're willing to do. But I'm with you. I would like to see something moved early. Again, I would like a left-handed power bat of some kind. Just going to throw this one out there. Yasiel Puig is out there. He's not on a team. And I know ultimately, do we want Yasiel Puig? I know a lot of you guys want Yasiel Puig, or at least you did last year. It would be interesting. I don't know if that's necessarily going to happen, but you might be able to get a deal with him. He might not necessarily be asking for the world and more, but it would be interesting. Let me see. Oh, yeah, guys. By the way, if you haven't voted for the All-Star game, go do that. I did that. I voted for Acuna, obviously. I voted for Freddie because I'm a Braves guy, but I also voted for Austin Riley. I suggest you go do that. I really hope he finds a way into that game because that would be really cool, and he's deserved it. Double A needs to make a few major moves to really compete. I agree. It would be interesting if we made a trade run. It would be one of the biggest names in terms of a Braves trade deadline was Fred McGriff. What am I saying? By the way, if you play MLB The Show, Dave Justice just got dropped as the new World Series reward. That's where my head's at right now. But yeah, Fred McGriff was one of the biggest names at the trade deadline for the Braves, and really made an impact. He was a fundamental part of the 1995 World Series team, and I think if we made a big move here, it could really be a turning point. But we shall see. An additional turning point to this one already. But remember as well, getting these three guys back is going to be like a late trade deadline boost. It's going to be a huge boost. Travis d'Arnaud offensively, first of all, is going to be a huge boost. I know he struggled early on this year, but we all know he can break out at any point. Huascar Ynoa was pitching tremendously. Mike Soroka is Mike Soroka. So I think it's going to be a big boost regardless. But I would like to see an additional one at the trade deadline, especially if we have money to spend. Left field, Charlie Blackman. Yeah, you hear me, Wayne Blackman. You hear me. Jacoby, that's a former coworker of mine. How you doing, buddy? Good to hear from you. Now, Ronnie, National League East will have to win the division to play in October. Same holds true for the National League Central, both wild cards coming from the West. I think so, too. I mean, the Giants are absolutely on a run. They're in first place. And who in the world would have thought that the Giants would be leading the National League West over the Dodgers and the Padres? They do. 41-25. They're the first team to 40 wins this year. I got a guy at work that's a big Giants fan. We talk about them a good bit. He's just as surprised as I was. So, I think it's interesting. I definitely think when you look at the wild cards, who would you rather see in the postseason? If you're being honest, who would you rather see in the postseason? The Dodgers or the Phillies, the Padres or the Mets? I'm probably going to lean National League West. Just in terms of pure excitement, in terms of teams that I think can be competitive. What does that mean for the Braves? I think what that means for the Braves is it's best that they go ahead and just win the division, and then we get to a postseason and anything can happen. But in terms of what I'm looking at right now,